I have to talk about what's going on with the Detroit Tigers because, unfortunately, I just can't have nice things. You know, I went into this month of baseball thinking, all right, well, they'll stumble their way through, but that's all right. They'll get the place. They're gonna win the division. It's just gonna be a little ugly. They'll stumble into it, but Cleveland's not that good. They get a series against the White Sox or the Marlins. Please, they'll be able to do that. And the start of the month, it was like, okay, they lost 2 out of 3 to the Mets. It's not great, but that's fine. They'll bounce back against the White Sox. There's 2 out of 3 to the White Sox. I was like, okay, well, I guess at some point you're going to lose a series to the White Sox. No problem there. Then they went 2 out of 3 against the Yankees. Like, all right, there we go. We're back. We're fine. We blew out the Yankees, no question. Then you lose 2 out of 3 to the Marlins. I was like, okay, well, that's not ideal. I mean, it's on the road maybe, so you could say there's a little bit of travel there. And that was about when everything started to go wrong for this baseball team. First, they lose game 1 to Cleveland. Then they lose game 2. Then they lose game 3. They get swept. And at that point, they are just, I think, 3.5 ahead. 3.5 games, maybe 4.5, something like that. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm not freaking out. I'm not going crazy, but I don't feel good. I don't feel good. And then they get swept by the Braves. And at that point, I have lost all hope. And right now, they're up 1-0 to the Cleveland Guardians, whom they need to sweep if they want to clinch the division before the end of the week. And I hope by the time that this is uploaded and everything, by the time that this is all clipped out and everything, I hope that has already happened. And this is just the ramblings of an upset man who is a prisoner of the moment. I hope that's the case. Unfortunately, this team is doing everything in its power to not win the division. And there's a lot of blame to go around. There is. Primarily, though, the blame is not on the pitching. It is on the hitting. I'm going to give you 3 guys that have decided they don't want to play baseball in October. They would rather stay home and watch the Lions or watch the Red Wings or whoever. They would just rather do anything other than play baseball in October. The first one I will call out is Zach McKinstry. Zach McKinstry was one of our all-stars. And in the last 15 games, he's batting .225 with .256 on-base percentage and a .425 slugging. And believe it or not, he's been one of the better ones. He's been one of the better ones. That's what's crazy. He struck out 11 times in the last 15 games. He's got just 6 or not. He's got 9 hits in 15 games. It's not good. All right. Needless to say, it's not good. Now, granted, he's done a little bit better in the last 7 games. A little bit better. But still not great. Still not great. Name number 2, and this one legitimately upsets me. And not in a I'm disappointed, in a like I am viscerally angry with you. Riley Green has been completely putrid. In his last 30 games, he has struck out 31 times. That is over a strikeout a game, fellas. 239 average, 315 on base, 422 slugging, which adds up to a little over 700. And then you go to his last 15 games, 179 average, 226 on base, 321 slugging, which amounts to somewhere in the 500s in OPS. And by the way, 18 strikeouts in his last 15 games. I don't know what is going through Riley Green's head right now, but he is not playing like the kind of player that he should be. He should be a superstar outfielder for this team. He should be a reliable offensive piece. He should be helping lead the team in offensive rallies. He should. Unfortunately for him, he has a strikeout problem. And all year he's had a strikeout problem. He's got the highest strikeout rate in his career this season. You want to know how bad it's gotten? Last year, he had 156 strikeouts. This year, with 6 games to go, he has 194. So he's got almost 40 more strikeouts in 6 less games. That is pitiful. Now, you might say, well, his average is about the same, 260 to 262, and his OPS is just a little lower, 805 to 827. The problem is strikeouts do nothing for you other than ruin your team. At least if you fly out, if you ground out, if you line out, you're forcing the defense to actually make a play. And things can happen. Guys drop pop flies. Guys bobble ground balls. Strikeouts does nothing for you. It does nothing but demoralize you. And his swing is too long. I was saying that even when he was playing well, but I was like, okay, well, it's playing well, so, I'm not going to freak out, but everything is not going right, basically, for Riley. Outside of maybe his fielding. But even that, he made some misplays there over the weekend as well. But the one game that I guess we should have expected this, but for whatever reason, we wanted to have a little bit of fun, and we were not allowed to have fun. That would be one Javier Baez. Javier Baez, in his last 30 games, is batting .209 with a .221 OPS and a .264 slugging. He has struck out 24 times, which, by the way, is actually lower than Riley's. So keep that in mind. Riley Green is actually striking out more than Javier Baez. In his last 15 games, Javier is batting .119, almost a whole 100 percentage points lower, or just points lower, not percentage points. 156 is his OPS on-base percentage. 156. If I told you his average was 156, you'd say that's pretty bad. But we're talking about his on-base percentage. His slugging is 167 in the last 15 games. He has been putrid. Completely putrid. And look, we've come accustomed to Javi Baez being bad. I'm not denying that. We've made the playoffs with the bad Javi Baez, although granted at that point he was injured and thrown to the garbage, and Trey Sweeney filled in his role fairly nicely. That has obviously not aged well because Trey Sweeney is also terrible. But we're not going to talk about him because I don't know. I don't really have the energy to talk about him. But furthermore, it's not just on the players, because obviously the blame goes on them for not performing, because they have the capability of performing and they're just not doing it. The blame also goes on the front office and on the coaching, because right now the team looks lethargic. They look not ready to play. There's no energy. There's no swagger. There's just nothing about this team. Nobody's stepping up. Nobody's making a big-time play outside of, Skubal pitching well, or, the occasional torque bomb, or whatever the case might be. And that goes on AJ Hinch. I mean, I like AJ Hinch. I think he's a really smart manager. And he does he knows how to find the matchups, seemingly. But, I do get a little annoyed when I got to see, guys like Parker Meadows or Jahmai Jones leading off when neither of those guys are consistent hitters, because the plan is we want to get the matchups. We want the righty on the righty, or we want the lefty on the righty. We want the righty on the lefty, whatever. It's like, why don't we just put the best hitter in our lineup and see what happens? I understand, like, some guys hit better against lefties and some guys hit better against righties. So you want to maximize that. But some guys aren't good hitters in general. And while they might be better against lefties, or while they might be better against righties, they don't help you as much as you think they might help you. No disrespect to Jahmai Jones or Andy Ibanez. Both of those guys have put together some big-time hits for this team throughout the season. Not this season necessarily for Ibanez, but certainly in general. But also, not just AJ Hinch, but Scott Harris. Because as much as AJ can manipulate the lineup, when he has no other choice but to put Jahmai Jones as his leadoff man to try to beat the lefty pitcher, well, who would that exactly be on? It would be on the roster construction of Scott Harris. And if I just go down this hitting lineup, Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Kerry Carpenter, Gleyber Torres, Dylan Dingler, Colt Keith, Zach McKinstry, Wenzel Perez, Javi Baez, Jahmai Jones, Trey Sweeney, Andy Ibanez, Parker Meadows, Jake Rogers, and an assortment of other players that have come up and off throughout the year. Do any one of those players fear any, do those bring any sort of fear in the heart of opposing teams' fans? Like when you're in a playoff game and you see Colt Keith walk up to the plate, are you like, oh my gosh, Colt Keith is up to bat? No, we're going to get our hearts broken. When Dylan Dingler steps up to the plate, when outside, maybe Kerry Carpenter, maybe Riley Green, maybe. Like the closest we can get is a guy who only hits against righty pitching, and a guy who's got the highest strikeout rate in baseball, in Riley Green. Everybody else, they're gadget guys. They're guys that can, put together some nice at bats. They can put together good hits when you need them, but they are not. The Tigers are playing the Guardians. They're not Jose Ramirez. They're not Aaron Judge. They're not Shohei Ohtani. They're not Fernando Tatis Jr. And I'm not saying that you need to have specifically those kind of guys, but you don't have any of those guys. Riley Green is not in the same category as Aaron Judge. Not a lot of people are. He's not in the same category as a lot of top outfielders, despite the fact that he's had a good season. But he strikes very little fear in the hearts of his opponents. He does. He just doesn't. So that is on roster construction. And I'm not saying you necessarily need to get a superstar. You need to get the right players that are going to succeed and elevate this team. But a superstar sure helps. A big-time bat sure helps. Is Alex Bregman a superstar? I think he's a really good bat. We couldn't get him. He didn't want to come here. Not Scott Harris's fault. But he also didn't want to get Christian Walker. He also didn't want to trade for Eugenio Suarez. He also didn't want to get any notable bat. Really. The most notable bat that he got was Gleyber Torres on a 1-year deal. So he's probably not coming back unless he just really likes it here and we managed to sign him to an extension. And frankly, the way he's been playing somewhat recently, I'm not sure that people really want him to get an extension. So regardless of how this season ends, hopefully the Tigers can pull away and get this division handled. It is in their control in as much as they got to just go out there and win baseball games, which they're certainly capable of doing. But if they do not win this division, and furthermore, if they somehow manage to miss the playoffs entirely, something's got to happen. I'm not saying necessarily people got to get fired, but you have to change your approach. You have to go out there and you have to make this team a lot better. And that means investing in the hitting. I've said it for years. They have not actually invested in the hitting. They've invested in development, and guys that they have gotten better, and that's great, and that's awesome. I love seeing that Spencer Torkelson hits over 30 home runs. I love seeing that Riley Green hits over 30 home runs. I like seeing Colt Keith and Dylan Dingler. All those guys get better through development. That's great. Bring me the Pudge Rodriguez. Bring me the Maglio Ordonez. Those are the kinds of players that can put you into full-on, we're now a World Series contender. And that is kind of the point here, right? To win a World Series. And the other thing, one last thing before we end this segment, because Skubal is on the mound right now. If you don't plan on signing Skubal, then trade him. Straight up. You're going to get a haul of prospects or maybe a ready-to-go bat. You're going to get a haul. And if this is your last hurrah with Skubal, and maybe that's why you weren't, willing to go all in because you wanted to see what you could do with one last season of Tarek Skubal, fine. But then trade him. And you better get a haul, and you better actually win that trade. Because I remember the last time this Tiger team traded off one of their best pitchers in Justin Verlander, and that trade got us Jake Rogers, and that's about it. So we're going to learn a lot about Scott Harris in this offseason, regardless of the result. Now, hopefully the Tigers, they put it together. Maybe they even win the World Series. I doubt that's going to happen, but stranger things have happened in this league. Either way, the offseason is going to be very interesting. Very interesting. So, Scotty boy, let's see what you got. Because right now I'm feeling sad. Even though the Tigers are winning right now, I'm feeling sad. Hey YouTube, if you like clips like that, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. We've got live shows every Tuesday night. Hope to see you there.